You know, women have it really hard out there in the world. Whether they're being chased by Mr. X in Raccoon City, not getting their own starring role in a film in over 10 years, or just being stuck in a marriage to an idiot for an unaging 32 years. You can help make their lives, and ours, a little easier by donating to patreon.com/evacstation. For less than the cost of the roses, you are going to get them and send them as some kind of a half-assed apology, because you know they won't accept that because of what you did being colossally stupid. Right. You can help us provide women all over with some fun and positive entertainment. And heck, you can enjoy it too. Again, it's patreon.com/evacstation. And also consider donating to an actual female-focused charity in your area, because that's also a good cause. And enjoy the show. Centuries ago, the gods placed us here to pass on the stories of old and to spread or help spread the wisdom of their teachings to the world of mortals. But we rebelled against those same gods by making bad puns and begging for money on Patreon instead. We are Wonder Waseska, and I've got with me Wonder Metters.
Yay!
I couldn't resist. I had to throw it in there.
We all get to be wonderful.
If you want to follow us on our Facebook, Tumblr, Twitter, you can do so. Links are down below. We're also on various podcast platforms of choice, including Google Play, iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, Podcast Addict, and Peepa. 5 stars, please, because you can help us get sought out by all sorts of other podcast listeners who may not have heard of this fantastically weird show we do. And of course, we also can be reached by our email. Ryan, hit me up with that email.
That email is how the fuck did Hephaestus forge an invisible goddamn jet at I'm sorry. That's at evacstation@gmail.com.
I have thoughts on that invisible jet. We'll get to that.
Man.
Before we get to that, though, Ryan, so in our B episodes of these DC movies, we are actually doing a question of the week versus our What You Watching. And Ryan, this is a fun one for you. What is your favorite royalty figure within fiction? And this could be a prince, a princess, a king, a queen, a duke, even a president, a chancellor, whatever. Whatever position of power, character, do you appreciate or like the best?
Ooh, that's a big-ass question.
It's a big one.
Man.
It's a big one.
Ooh. Okay.
If you want to give me like a hot 3 or 5 instead of narrowing it down to 1, I'm fine with that too.
No. I got you. I actually had it. I had to squirrel away, but I got it. My favorite is it is Dalinar from the Stormlight Archive series written by Brandon Sanderson. The gist of it essentially is that all the princes of this era, they're all kind of like typical royalty. You know, they govern and what have you, but they're very self-important. They're very like focused on themselves. And Dalinar in the past was a very wrathful, warlike general and prince. But crazy shit happens. And he actually stops and takes a deep look into his life. And he actually revolutionizes the way kingdoms are run by reading a philosophical book called The Way of Kings. And it teaches him to look at the people that he's serving and looking at the burden of leadership as a service that he provides to the people whom entrust their very lives to kings. So the kings have this huge burden to protect the people who have put their trust and their faith into him. If you guys love Brandon Sanderson, please hit me up. I can talk about it for literal days. But yes, I will. Short answer, TLDR, Dalinar from The Way of Kings. things.
See, now I feel like I can't really give a proper answer because I feel like yours was just so in-depth and so, like, explained so well. No matter what I say, I can't possibly match it.
You hit the button, man. I have tomes on this man. He's so cool. I really want to read the book. I want to read the made-up book that he reads in this book because I feel like it will teach me just to be a better person.
Okay. I'm gonna throw an answer out there. It's not gonna be quite as good as yours, I don't think, but I'm gonna try. So an unpopular opinion I have is I really appreciate the Lord Gwyn or King Gwyn from the Dark Souls series.
Ooh, okay.
He's a very tragic figure, and also a very horrible person at the same time. It's really interesting. So through DLC of Dark Souls 3, you get more backstory to him, and there's some people out there who don't consider it canon because they don't like Dark Souls 3, and I respect that because Dark Souls 3 is it's a game that's not quite as good as Dark Souls 1, and in all the wrong ways, but that's not the point. The point is that, basically, you have the 4 Lord Souls. I'm not going to get into details what all that is, but they go to each of these different, like, prominent figures in the Dark Souls lore, one of which being the furtive pygmy, which becomes, like, the Dark Soul, which is, like, I guess for all intents and purposes, the big bad of the first game, so to speak, or at least one of the big bad monsters you fight. And so the king, Gwyn, being very concerned about what the hell that could imply, sealed all these people away in a forbidden city, a ringed city, far away, so they couldn't possibly pose a threat to him. And he made it seem like it was a gift, and he trapped his wife, I think it was his wife, if I remember right. He trapped his wife there, or his first daughter, one of the two, and she became like this lord or queen over them in this, like, fucking hellscape. It's like, just fucking... The guy's a monster. He seals, like, Lord Soul, he seals part of his soul within, like, various, like, followers who become corrupted, and all because he wants to fight off this darkness, and, oh my god, there's just so much going on. And, I don't know, I like the world of Dark Souls enough, and I think he's he comes off as a minor character, but he is such a big, like, puller of the strings in the whole story, that it's just fascinating to see what he's done. And the state, and the way the state of the world he's left behind. It's just really good.
That's a really good. That's like Miyazaki writes fucking ridiculously good stories. So hey, Lord Gwyn is a fantastic choice, sir. Well done.
Shout out to the king though of Dark Souls 2, whose name is escaping me at the moment. He also has a very tragic story too, but I've already done enough. I'm gonna move on to the next segment here. The next segment being our film of the week. Or day, because we have 2 this week. I'm dumb. Welcome back to the Crisis on Infinite Films, where we've been discussing live-action and animated films inspired by DC Comics. Today we'll be taking a step back in time to 2009's Wonder Woman. No, not the live-action one, an animated movie, directed by Lauren Montgomery and written by Gail Simone and Michael Jelenic. No box office numbers, because as always, these seem to be direct-to-video, which is a shame, because I think the only one of these that have ever actually made it to film or to theaters was Mask of the Phantasm, which I want to talk about, but that's going to be
Phantasm.
That's going to be saved for a Batman month,
Yo.
and I want to cover that someday.
Mask of the Phantasm, you just threw me way back.
It's so good too.
Keep going. I'm sorry, I'm gonna lose myself on that one. Keep going.
So while there's no box office numbers, this does come with a fantastic line of people for voice work, including Virginia Madsen, John DiMaggio, Nathan Fillion, Kerry Russell, Oliver Platt, and the crazy doctor with extra arms, Alfred Molina. Unfortunately, also, there are no awards for this film, so we're going to go over to the Fun Fact Science Corner.
All right. Well, fun facts. This film is loosely based on the first storyline of the second ongoing Wonder Woman comic book series in 1987, God's Immortals, which was written by George Perez, Len Wein, and Greg Potter. Second off, when Wonder Woman and Steve Trevor are confronted by the first agent of Ares in New York City, the agent names himself as Deimos. Deimos is in Greek myth is the child of the god Ares, who is the villain in this movie. I think like they take another they go with another son in this, in the actual film, but we'll get into that. Third, the Cyclops that Artemis kills in the opening battle is actually based on Ray Harryhausen's stop-motion design in Jason and the Argonauts from 1963. I love that they kind of work, they work really
I love those kind of shout-outs.
in there too. Yeah.
Jason and the Argonauts is one of those movies that gets referenced a lot, and I love when I can find those references.
Yes, 100%. And last but not least, I think this might be my favorite fun fact, but Oliver Platt, who plays Hades, also portrays DC comic editor MC Gaines in Professor Marsden and the Wonder Woman, which I saw a couple of weeks ago and it was amazing.
I put that in there specifically because I knew you'd appreciate it.
I really do. You know me so well.
I try. Yeah, no, this is definitely got some interesting stuff going on here. I definitely want to talk about it because I like a lot of what this film's trying to do. I just don't think it sticks to landing 100%.
Yeah, that's fair. If we're just segueing straight to initial thoughts.
Yeah, basically.
I think. I think this movie is trying to do a couple of things, and it does some of them well. I think DC animation is always really, really high up there, and I don't think this is the best animated movie that they've put out there. But I also don't think it's by any means the worst or bad. It's kind of middle of the road for me in terms of the animation that they put out. So there were good moments, there were bad moments, but it wasn't super duper stellar in my opinion.
Yep, I can agree to that. I have some thoughts on that too, but we'll hop into that after a brief synopsis.
Let's get it!
Like any story regarding Wonder Woman, we have to introduce this film with a lore dive into the battle against Ares. Why? Because Wonder Woman origins have changed so much in the comics that casual fans won't have a fucking clue what's going on otherwise. Ares in this film is imprisoned on Themyscira, and we actually see Diana molded out of clay that her mom found. See, Mom? No dick. All woman. We fast forward to when Diana is more or less an adult. A man has appeared on the island, Captain Malcolm Reynolds. After the standard lasso jokes ensue, the Amazons conclude the downed pilot is not actually a threat and offer to send an emissary to take him back home. That's nice. The other Amazons didn't want to do that. A trial by combat is used to determine who takes him home rather than, accepting volunteers. Because Diana is so eager to go, but Mom's like, no, because men are monsters and will slap you with their dick the minute you aren't ready. She's only kind of wrong. Diana sneaks into the contest and wins, but in doing so, she shirks her guard duties and another Amazonian helps free Ares from his holding cell. Oh no! Now Diana has to return Steve Trevor to America, while they also have to look for Ares before he can regain his full power. Various gender-based humor gags happen during their wanderings through what I think is Washington, D.C. at the time. I don't remember 100%. A man with snakes for a face tries to fight Diana, but she wins, and they get a location where Ares may be going, and discover he's planning to go to hell, and to have his shackles removed by Hades. Hades agrees, flaunting Ares' dead son as he does. Now free, Ares conjures an army of dead warriors, dead and warriors, to fight in Washington, D.C. The battle becomes huge and epic. There are skeletons and dragons, all manner of mythical creatures, that you could mistake this film for an animated iteration of Fantastic Beasts. The Amazonians, breaking from their usual shtick, sail to D.C., Washington, not the comics, and fight alongside Diana and what remains of the American military. Ares is eventually defeated and his soul becomes another slave to Hades. Diana returns home, longing to return to the world of man. She is offered a full position as something of an emissary so she can travel between the island and the rest of the world to continue helping and being a bridge to the modern world. And that, my friends, is your movie.
Indeed. Cut and dry, straightforward.
Yep, pretty straightforward. So let's start right off the bat. I have a problem.
Damn, okay.
I'm not trying to start off the problem to give a bad note this movie's bad. I just want to get this one problem out of the way.
Alright, let's hear it.
I don't like how the characters are animated, or designed, I should say.
Really?
Well, they take the standard design ideas for specifically for the women characters, with the big lips, big hips kind of thing.
Mm.
And I get that that's sort of like an animation shorthand to identify that animated character is a woman. But I just feel like the designs are all kind of samey and really overdone in so many things. Like, do they have to look like they're all wearing lipstick on Themyscira? Do they really?
I mean, like, I see where you're coming from. I thought it was just kind of the animated signature of it, and just like how they were choosing to do women in this movie. It didn't really like jump out to me as a problem because I just kind of rolled with it since like the choice was universal throughout like all the women in the movie, but I can see how that would drive you a little crazy. Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah. And it didn't kill the movie for me. It's just something I noticed right away. I'm like, wow, these characters are designed kind of poorly.
Mm.
And then I kind of got over it after a while when stuff started happening, but I'm like, I really wish they had taken a little more time to make them all look a little more unique. A little bit.
Fair. It's fair. It's fair criticism.
So going from there, Ryan, what did you think of the retelling of the Battle of the Gods in this movie? Do you think so the key difference here, for those listening, in the live action film, you're more or less narrated the Battle of the Gods, but you do get some like slow-mo, like still frame kind of animatics with it. Whereas in this film, you kind of see it happening as it's happening. So I guess my question to you, Ryan, is which do you prefer?
So I think this kind of leads into a bigger directional choice for both movies, because you have to look at exactly how it's presented. In the live action, the story of the gods' battle against Ares is set as a story. It's set as a fairy tale, pretty much. And they try to play it off later on. Like while there's still an element of truth to it, they try to play it off as only a story. In the animated movie, it is taken as fact. This is history. This is exactly how it happened, and the gods actively intervened after Hippolyta killed her son by Ares and was about to actually slay Ares, and was stopped, and her sword was stopped by Zeus's hand, and they were given Themyscira and Paradise Island as recompensed by Hera so that they can be sealed off from the world of men. I think those two things kind of set the tone for exactly how deep into Greek mythology each film is going to be. And so the live action kind of set it so that it had it in there, and like of course like it's gonna be a part of it because the gods are real, but it's not like so knee deep into Greek mythology that we're just gonna go balls to the wall with it. And I think they chose differently in the animated version. I think I like the live action better because it's less bound by the old mythology and the old Wonder Woman storylines, and so it has a little more room to kind of breathe and do its own thing.
I hear you. I think I think the style of live action I like better, but I think the actual like seeing the battle itself unfold I prefer a little bit more. But that goes back to my previous discussion in the last episode, where I'm more of a show don't tell kind of person. And I get it. She's telling a story, so I understand that fits with what's going on. But I definitely like seeing the battle take place. I like seeing the various like people getting killed and how it plays into the story a little bit later, and all that. So I don't know. That's my personal preference.
Okay, all right, it's fair. It's fair.
Let's see here. What do I got next? Okay, so this is another minor problem I have, and it maybe bothered you as well. What are your thoughts on the film's various comments regarding gender, sexism, and feminism?
Man.
Remember back when we said Wonder Woman had a lot of subtlety?
Yeah, I do, indeed. And you know, apparently it took them 8 years to learn how to be subtle. because this was not subtle at all.
Shots fired.
This is not subtle at all. This is this is what I think is one of the major failings of the animated film. You can kind of chalk it up to a short runtime, I think, because they didn't have as much time to really convey. They didn't have as much of a runtime, and they had a lot more shit that they wanted to do. They had to explain like the backstory. They had to really get into the fact that, hey, the gods are real and that we actually have Ares fucking locked up in the basement, and now he's escaped, and now he wants to open this secret portal so that he can get to Hades, so that he can undo his chains, and now he needs to raise the dead, and now he has to attack the world. And on top of that, you also have Steve Trevor trying to drunkenly hit on Diana, and Diana making all of these like super pointed comments on how like men are garbage and the world of men have poisoned women's minds since birth to believe that they're inferior in comparison to men. These are true things, but it tells you. It doesn't show it to you like the live action. So I didn't dig what this movie did. I'm trying to be as charitable to it as possible and make allusions for the difficulties of it, but all in all, I didn't think it was done very well.
See, I don't think I can be nice to it about that. I mean, well,
I'm a charitable person.
I respect you wanting to be nice, to be like, oh, hey, it doesn't have a high runtime. It's fine. They had to work
It's not fine. It's not fine.
But like, we talked about Batman vs. Superman, or Batman and Superman World's Finest, like, literally, last week?
Mm-hmm.
No, 2 weeks ago, sorry. We talked about just the other day, really. And that was subtle as fuck with some of the stuff they were trying to do. And then same with what is it? Suicide Squad's animated movie, Assault on Arkham. It also contained more character moments that were a little more subtle than what the live action movie had. So I would say that the animated films can take time to kind of slow down and really build up something with a short runtime. They just have to figure out a more efficient way to do that. And I don't think this film had that in mind. And I think it comes down to the two leads, Steve and Wonder Woman, being kind of poorly written, honestly.
Yeah, they were definitely kind of poorly written. Wow, they were poorly written. But to counteract with World's Finest, I would say that World's Finest didn't have to do any setup. Like, you walked into World's Finest knowing who Batman was. You knew who Superman was. You knew who the Joker was. You knew who Lex Luthor was. And all it was just saying, hey, these guys are in the same 3 episodes, and let's see how they react when I throw them in a bag. So it had all that runtime to really just kind of play on like the actual story and the interactions between the characters involved. This one you did have to do a good deal more setup on it, and then tell a bunch of story that was both plot driven. It tried to do both plot driven character like story and character driven, and the character writing was not very good, so it kind of fell on that part. And it was trying to do a lot. It was really trying to do a lot. So.
Mm-hmm. So let's give some examples here. So in the animated film, Steve comes off as more of a pig.
Yes.
And that makes him less likable.
Yes, it does.
And it makes it harder for us to be like, oh, Wonder Woman, you have to like this guy because he's going to totally help you bridge this whole human thing. It's like, and in this movie, I'm like, no, you shouldn't be dealing with this guy at all. It's just fuck it off and go let him die somewhere.
Yeah, honestly, the only reason that I was okay with Steve being involved was because, hey, I have access to the satellite surveillance system. I can help you find Ares. It's just like, fuck, I guess. All right, fine.
Now, like, if this movie had taken place in the era of, say, Mad Men, I could understand him being a chauvinistic pig, because a lot of guys were back in the day. That's what the whole era was kind of built on. But based on the based on the technology we were seeing, it definitely was at least the 80s, if not later. And I don't think we were quite that bad. If I wasn't alive in the 80s, I couldn't say for sure. But I don't think we were as bad as, like, the fucking 60s. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, like, I feel like it tries to do the same thing in the live-action film about saying how, like, Steve Trevor has some of the worst qualities in humanity, yet he's going to be one of the biggest reasons why humanity is actually worth saving. And in the live action, you have Chris Pine, who's just a fucking fantastic actor. We were talking so much about, like, the great movie that we didn't even get to circle back to Chris Pine, who was fucking fantastic. So I'm gonna bring him up here. But you have Chris Pine, who, like, aside from being, like, a spy whose job was to lie and murder and steal and all that stuff, like, him as a person wasn't that bad of a guy. He was kind of a normal guy whose job required him to do bad things, and who has seen
kind of like Han Solo almost.
Kind of like Han Solo, yeah, a little bit like Han Solo, yeah.
Yeah.
But, like, whereas the animated version of Steve Trevor, you had him, like, just an asshole of a person for the majority of the time that he spends on screen. It doesn't mean, like, he should be consigned to death, but he's definitely less likable than his live-action counterpart. So it's a little harder to root for him. You're right.
Well, and I think what really makes it stand out is the fact we know that in the comics, Steve and Diana get together. We know that that's a relationship that happens, and it's a relationship that most fans like because they build up to it. They do a good job building to it. If you're just going off this movie, I would not blame you for questioning why the hell Diana would ever like that guy.
Yes, I was straight up like, why are you kissing this man? Why? At the end of it, I was just like, what's the point?
What has he done for you? Explain this to me. Where did he touch you, Diana? Let's see. Okay, so this is going to be an interesting question here. So, which, let's see, Oh, did I write Hades instead of Ares? My mistake. Which iteration of Ares did you find more compelling, and did you find either one of them compelling?
100% live action. Oh, dear God, let's talk about Ares, please.
Okay. Start us off, Ryan. Start us off.
All right, so I made mention yesterday about the subtle iteration of Ares as composed to Big Dumb Brute Ares that we see everywhere. Here we got the same thing. You might as well have taken the dude with the fiery beard from God of War and just put him in this movie. To be fair, he had some natural charisma to him. Like he was a very compelling, charismatic person.
That's how he got Persephone to join him.
That's how he convinced that silly ass Amazon to let him go. But we'll get to that because that's actually one of the best things I like about the movie later on. But at the end of the day, you have a god whose primary delight is just making people fight for the fuck of it, just so he can be just so he can walk across the backs of 5 billion corpses and kind of get drunk on his own power to even conquer the gods. It's very straightforward. It's very not subtle. It's very boring. Like, because I've seen that Ares done about 1 billion times, and it's just like watching Diana fight generic bad guy number 8. As opposed to his live action counterpart, who, yes, is trying to stir the flames of war, but does it in a very subtle, very interesting way. Like he represents all the intricacies of war, because a lot of people think that war is just 2 groups of people running at each other with swords or guns or what have you, or people shooting bombs at each other. But there are many more aspects and many more facets to war. And I think the god of war should accurately portray all of those things and not just be the big dumb brute in armor. So I 100% believe that Remus Lupin was the better God of War. Yes, sir.
I am gonna give you a very middle of the road answer here, and I'll explain why in a minute.
Okay, go ahead.
So I like the subtlety and intricacies of the Lupin Ares. Larry's.
Larry's.
And while Larry's is really good in those regards, I do find the visual style behind what do I call the other Ares? Berries. I find berries to be very visually more appealing to me. And I think it's partly because I am always kind of a sucker for animation in general. But I think that just getting to see a cooler, I guess not cooler, but a more traditional looking Ares. Like, I don't want him to, like, I agree with you, I don't want him to be the constant, like, you know, blood of my enemies and walking on the billion backs and stuff like that. I don't necessarily need that, but I definitely want his armor to at least make him look intimidating, to make him look like a threat, because I look at Larry's and I don't see him as that intimidating or threatening. I mean, even when he gets the armor on, I feel like I'm still just like, okay, it's fine. I don't hate it, but it's not really doing it for me. This one kind of does it a bit more for me. They both have their strengths and weaknesses, I think. The thing that I think tips me in favor of Larry's is, like I said, just the fact that he brings a more interesting, subtler approach to it. But I can't deny the fact that I do like having the army of mythical creatures at his side. I think that was actually kind of cool. And
that is,
I'm a sucker for monsters. I like cryptids.
That's very fair. That's very fair. I won't knock that. That's a very good answer.
I know I was very uncommitted with my answers, boys, but well, hey,
it makes me look at the positive of berries. Like I have to. I like there were good things about him. I really did like the army of mythological creatures. And just like him calling up the dead Amazons was like ridiculous. I was like, okay,
that was something I didn't expect to happen. I'm like, oh shit, you're gonna bring back them. Then when they brought back Artemis' sister, I'm like, oh shit, she's back.
Yeah. Although you being able to undo your spell, like to undo Ares' spell, bringing them back with like a single incantation.
That was probably time constraints at best.
Stop.
I want to say though there was a nice touch in that battle where one of the Amazons of the living Amazons was struck down, and she came back as one of the zombies for the army. Like, oh fuck, that's cool.
That was cool. That was cool.
Like, I don't get to see that in movies very often. I'm like, okay, I want more of this. Like, it's a minor thing, but it's just like, oh man, that's great. Okay, moving on from my nerding here. I'm going to skip this section real quick. We'll come back to it in a minute. Did you like the minor inclusion of Hades? And do you want to see more of him in a future film?
So yes and no. It's my turn to give a non-committal answer.
Fair enough.
I understand his inclusion. I like that it offers ties for Hades being a villain further down the road. Like once we tie up Ares, what else we're gonna have to do. I like that. I like that idea, and I also like that he was a dick. He was dickish enough to throw Ares' dead son in his face.
That was so great.
It was nuts. Like, it shocked me. Like, I was like, yo. And Ares knew he couldn't say shit because this dude is literally going to release him from his bonds. And Ares had been such a dick to everybody else in the past. I was just like, oh, that's comeuppance for your ass. And when it ends and he's a servant right next to his son for Ares, I was like, oh, that's good. That's very good. So I liked that.
That whole bit was on point.
It was very on point. I really liked that. But I do not like the design of Ares.
I am in full agreement.
I thought, when I saw him, I thought he was, fuck, what is the god of hedonism.
I know who you're
Dionysus?
talking. I think so.
I thought he was Dionysus as opposed to Hades, the lord of the underworld. You know what I
If you want to
mean?
vamp real quick, I can look it up.
Yeah. So I like I said, I'm a huge Oliver Platt fan. As soon as I heard his voice, I was like, "Holy shit, here we go!" And like I said, I think they did really, really clever stuff with injecting him, leaving it as a tie for more things we can do with it, and smacking Ares in the face because he had been a bitch up until this point. But yeah, I would wonder what drove the decision to really design Hades like that, because he didn't feel like terrifying. He's the
Nope.
god of the underworld. He didn't feel terrifying to me.
To answer your question, Ryan, Hedon was the personification and goddess of pleasure, enjoyment, and delight. Hedon was also known as Voluptas. Voluptas in Roman mythology is a daughter born from the union of the Greek god Eros, which is Cupid, and Psyche in the realm of immortals. She was associated more specifically with sensual pleasure. Her opposites were Algos, personification of pain, and personifications of pain. The term hedon, which is Greek for the meaning of pleasure, is used as a philosophical concept in the ancient Greece. For instance, it played an important part of the yada yada yada. It is also the root word of the English word hedonism.
Right. So, who I thought he looked like, I was right in saying that he reminded me of Dionysus, because Dionysus is the ancient Greek god of wine, winemaking, grape cultivation, fertility, ritual madness, theater, and religious ecstasy.
I
The
should have known
like
that from that one MOBA game that he's in.
right. His Roman name is Bacchus, so that's like. But I mean, he looks like, you know what he really looks me like reminds me of. He reminds me of Hedonism Bot from
I was
fucking
going to say
Futurama.
that.
That's why.
Yeah. No, I agree with you completely. So while I'm vamping here real quick, you should look up the DC anime. You should look up Justice League Hades, because he looks really cool in that. But no, so there's a Hades in Justice League, the cartoon series, and he is fucking great. And I was really hoping to get that, and we kind of got this weird looking dude, and I don't hate it, but it's not a design I would have associated with Hades in any capacity.
Yeah.
So I am for more Hades, just not this Hades.
Yeah. I'm taking a look at it now with the gray skin, like the gray like skin, and like the black gray armor with the red like accents. Yeah, that's Hades. Like that's some Hades for your ass. Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's that. Let's see what I got next here. Okay, so this ties into that a little bit. So this animated film, goes out of the way to include more mythical elements from the Wonder Woman lore. I know we covered a little bit, but does that work for you, or do you think that's a little overwhelming?
Um, I think it can work. I think in this movie it wasn't implemented amazingly well. And again, because I made mention to the reasons I think why it wasn't earlier. But no, I didn't find it overwhelming. I mean, Wonder Woman is based heavily in Greek mythology, and it's one of DC's more bolder properties, because it like emphatically 100% says the Greek mythology and the Greek pantheon are real in their setting. It's like how Doctor Strange came out and said, yes, magic is fucking real in Marvel. Wonder Woman does that for Greek mythology. And if you're gonna be in it, then run with it. And like, sure, the fucking bracelets were actually forged from remnants of Zeus's shield. And that, yeah, Ares is now stronger than Hades. Yeah, you can fucking run with it. I think you just have to do it right.
Right. I would say that I definitely enjoyed some bits of it. Like, I loved Snakeface during that fight. That guy was cool.
Yeah.
And I wish we'd gotten, like, not necessarily him in particular, but, like, a sub-boss in the live-action movie. Not to that extreme, but something that kind of, like, hints there's more mythical stuff to come down the road. Because that would have been interesting.
I like the downplaying of the Greek mythology bits in the live action, because they they chose to really lean on the more realistic the realistic like aspects of it, as realistic as you can get in a story about fucking Amazons on an invisible island. I like that they chose to lean more into the real life problems as opposed to, oh, the fucking gods are actually real. So yeah, I appreciated that.
No, I hear you, but like just a small, subtle thing to kind of like be like, there's more to this Greek mythology than just these gods here. Just something little would have been cool. Because like I said, I don't need snake face per se, but something similar, something in that same vein of, hey, there's a Greek thing here that probably shouldn't be here. Oh, this is going to get way deeper in the future movie, isn't it? I'd be down for that.
Right.
But I will say for the animated film, I was not expecting dragons in the final fight at all. Like, where the fuck did dragons come into this?
Yeah, that final fight got, like, ridiculous.
Like, I can handle gargoyles, I can handle zombies, I can handle fucking snake face, but dragons are like, okay, that's not necessarily Greek now. I think you guys are pulling some extra lore from other things here. Let's see. Okay, this one I find interesting here. So unlike the live-action film, Diana's mom actually seems like she's a bit more supportive of her desire to see the outside world in this film. Do you like this change? Is it a good change, bad change? What do you think?
I really like it. This is actually like it's so the change in and of itself isn't like huge, but I think it's indicative of a bigger storytelling thing that they go for in the animated version, and I really like it because it speaks to Hippolyta's hesitance in cutting off their entire island from the outside world. Like you see it early in the film where she's like she touches the barrier that makes the island visible for a hot second because she kind of just wants to be a part of it just for a moment. And she recognizes the desire to be like a part of something greater as opposed to just be isolated in her daughter, which is why even though she forbade her from doing the games, when she did it, she was like, I can't really deny your request. And I think it also, like, the biggest moment of, like, the biggest culmination of that storyline for me is when Hippolyta is fighting the rogue Amazon that lets Ares go. And she's like, you betrayed us and da-da-da-da-da. And she's like, well, I didn't mean to fall in love. Like, I'm sorry, but, like, I had to do all of these things. And she's like, no, you betrayed your sister Amazons. We are warriors. And as she's dying, she says, we're warriors, but we're also women too. So it's like, it's not just her that's feeling the pain of being isolated from everybody, but rather everybody is feeling that in some form or fashion. And I like that was given more play, not just for Diana, but also for like everybody in Themyscira.
Mm-hmm. I concur. I actually do like the subtle changes here. I don't think you could do that in the live action film that we got because I think the message is definitely different. Mm-hmm. But I like a supportive mother figure in this role. I think that it really, even in the animated series that I watched, the Justice League and all that stuff, she wasn't supportive in that either. And I think it's just a refreshing change to be like, okay, this is someone who actually understands that the outside world kind of necessary for expanding in the future. You know what I mean? So I definitely think that this is a very interesting way to take things. I'd love to see more stuff from this line of thought.
Yeah. And to be fair, I don't think that her mother in the live action film was unsupportive. I think that at the end of the day, in the live action film, she lets Diana go because she realizes that Diana's not just going to take her word for it and that she has to learn that the world of men is all cruel and horrible and shit. So it's not that she's like, all right, you can never come back home, fucking, I never want to see you again, goodbye. It's just like, you have to see this for yourself. And so, like, you've always been headstrong, and you've always done what you wanted, so you're going to have to learn this lesson the hard way. And I didn't see her as unsupportive, but I definitely saw her as less
hands-off.
I saw her as less idealistic. Like
that's fair. That's fair.
and that came off in how she mothered Diana. I wouldn't call either of them bad mothers. They're just different.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Okay. So final 2 questions here. One, okay, Ryan, I know you mentioned it earlier, Invisible Jet. What do you got on that?
Fucking Invisible Jet.
So get your hot minute out.
I'm so mad. I was just so mad at it because you've set this story up, like the first like 15-20 minutes you get like, okay, so this group of Amazons have gained their independence. They were given this island that would be hidden from the realm of men, and you have this untouched utopia born from like Greek mythology that's really doing its own thing, and it has some semblance, like it has elements of magic within it, but it's just a race of female warriors. And then you have this American pilot that breaks through the barrier in a jet, and it should be completely new. It should be absolutely entirely new. And like and right, like at the end of it, when we're like, okay, we have to get him back home, and then all of a sudden this invisible jet comes out of nowhere. Pause. Hold the fucking phone. Who made the invisible jet? Why is there an invisible jet? Why do you have technology to make a jet invisible? Before all of that, how do you have the technology to make a fucking jet? Why? What the hell is the point? You have a magical mirror that casts an invisible dome over your entire island. You have bracelets that were forged from the scraps of Zeus's shield. You have a lasso of truth that compels like the truth out of anyone. You have all these magical artifacts and an invisible jet. And what I really hated is that not one line of dialogue was given to address the invisible fucking elephant in the room. Not one. Yeah, it was just like, oh, and we have this. Go.
I feel like Steve would have said something.
Seriously.
I won't go any further than that. I think you covered it pretty well. I've never liked the jet as part of her mythos, and I've never understood why it's a thing. But we'll get to that in a little bit, Ryan, because we have some trivia coming up.
Oh, man.
Last question, Ryan. Should Wonder Woman get more solo films, live action, animated, or otherwise?
Oh, 100%. 100%.
I'm more for all of it. I want to see more live action. I want to see better animation stuff. I'm down for more of it.
I'm 100% down for more of it. I think that Wonder Woman has fantastic stories that a lot of the mainstream, that a lot of like mainstream folk don't know about and would really enjoy. And I think we all could benefit from more amazingly done female-led superhero roles. I think with the mind-blowing success of the live-action film, I think we're really going to get to see more of that stuff. And I can't wait to see the direction that it pushes the genre, because there are some badass female characters in comic books, guys. We want to see more of these, and we want to see more of their stories where they take the focus. And I think the box office numbers are agreeing with me, which is why more female projects are getting greenlit.
Well, yeah, because with DC alone, we're getting more Harley Quinn, we're getting more Wonder Woman, we're getting Birds of Prey, and we're getting the Gotham City Sirens, I think, as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's a lot of female-led stuff there. I know Black Canary's going to be a part of that. I know that Catwoman's probably going to be a part of that. There's so much going on, and I think... And they even had Batgirl in the slate until Whedon stepped down saying, yeah, no, I'm done with DC. For good reasons. We'll get into that next week. But...
Yeah, I think I made mention to it a little, maybe a week or two ago, but the fact that DC really broke into female-led comic book stories first, and that they knocked it out of the fucking park. It's one of the few areas that they've beaten Marvel to the punch. And I think if they continue doing more of it, then it puts pressure on Marvel to really step up their game, because they've essentially got the game on lock, except in this area. And it's a big area because there are a lot of female comic geeks out there. They want to see their stories put out there, and DC was the first one to do it. I think this is the first true area of competition where DC is getting in first, and I can't wait to see what that does to Marvel in response, and how it'll actually become an actual kind of fight in between the two, where we hopefully get some really, really good female stories out of it.
I'm just hoping that DC is not resting their laurels and kind of half-ass the future attempts at female-led movies. Like, I hope they continue the same level of quality and same level of work, because they deserve this, okay? We've had Batman for years, we've had Superman for years, we've even had Spider-Man for a good while. Let's get some variety in there, and I think this is probably the best way to do it, aside from, Heroes of Color, which we're starting to get with that with Black Panther, so we're making strides. We're making pretty big strides these past couple years, and I think we're going to just keep getting more variety here in a very short order.
Yeah, don't rest, guys. You got to press your advantage. I want to see DC up there with Marvel in terms of content and quality, and I think this is the opening salvo in a lot of really, really good projects. So I can't wait to see what you guys do with it. Don't sit on it. Just keep pressing. Keep pressing.
Mm-hmm. And if y'all want to tell us what you think, what you see for the future of female-led superhero movies, you should comment down below or go on our Facebook, Twitter, or Tumblr page. And if that's not good enough for you, well, I don't know what I can say. I guess you could maybe go to our email. Ryan, what is that email?
That email is I still can't believe they had a fucking invisible jet at gmail. I'm sorry. Damn it. It's evacstation at gmail.com.
Mm-hmm. And you can go to us there. Patreon.com is also a great place to help support our show. $1 a month will help us keep the lights on, make better content, all that fun stuff. So with that in mind, Ryan, I got a quick bit of triv here for you.
Oh boy, here we go.
Welcome to Wonder Triv. Roll that music. So, Ryan, I've got 10 questions. We don't have to go through all of them, but I got 10 questions here of Wonder Woman trivia. Let's see how quickly we can get through some of these. Are you ready?
All right, let's do it.
The creator of Wonder Woman, William Marston, is also responsible for inventing what device?
Ooh, that's the lie detector, which is a big. It was a big inspiration in The Lasso of Truth, since early polygraph tests involved, that rubber kind of band that goes around you to gauge your readings.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
I figured you'd get that one. Colby Smulders, who plays Maria Hill in the Marvel movies, played Wonder Woman in what animated feature?
Wait! Didn't she do it in the fuck? The Lego Movie.
Ding, ding, ding! That's 2 out of 2.
Yes.
All right, this is gonna stump you, I think. Name 3 other characters who have taken the title of Wonder Woman.
Fuck. Okay.
I think you can get at least one of these, for sure.
Well, I know Donna Troy because I watched Titans, so I know Donna Troy is one. I do not know anywhere near enough about her story to answer this question, so I can only give you one.
All right, well, the other answers can include Queen Hippolyta, Artemis, Orana, Nubia, Cassandra Sandsmark, and yes, as you said, Donna Troy.
I did not know 3 of the other 5 names that you gave me there, but okay.
I'm actually surprised Hippolyta took up the role. I didn't expect that.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, so thankfully, on number 4, this has been retconned out, but what was Wonder Woman's weakness in the earliest iterations of her comic?
Oh, it was being tied up by a man. It was,
and specifically by a man.
Yeah, so because I watched Professor Marsden and the Wonder Women, Keep in mind that he was actually putting a lot of BDSM culture and like
Mm-hmm.
ideals about
Mm-hmm.
submission and dominance into Wonder Woman. So early Wonder Woman stuff had a lot of kinky shit in it. Had a lot of kinky shit.
Next one I got here. In the animated film, the origin of Wonder Woman's origin is being made of clay follows that of the original comics. In the New 52 comics, Hippolyta gives birth to Wonder Woman through an affair with which god? As a bonus, in the animated series Justice League, this affair was implied to be with who else instead?
Um, um, damn it. I'm pretty sure in the live action she was given to Hippolyta by Zeus, which is why she's a demigod. So I'm gonna guess Zeus as the father for New 52.
That's correct.
In the animated series,
You're gonna love the answer when I tell you what it is.
um, well, it's got to be different, but I don't know who. Maybe I would guess. I would guess Aries. I would guess
You are
Aries.
very, very close. You actually looked at the sexy man just a minute ago. It's Hades.
You. Why? Because obviously Hades has fucking shapeshifting powers. Otherwise, what? What's the? Why?
They don't outright say it, but it's heavily implied.
Why?
You should watch the show, Ryan. It's really good.
Is it really good, or is it Ryan will have a migraine levels of good?
The whole show is really good, but that
Okay.
episode, you might get a migraine. I don't know.
Okay, that's
There's other good moments in that episode I think you'll enjoy.
Grumbles.
Number 6, in the comics just before Justice League, in the comics before the Justice League, Wonder Woman teamed up with a bunch of lesser-known heroes, forming the Justice Society of America. What was her role within the Justice Society of America?
What was fucking like late 1930s, 1940s? I would probably guess secretary or something horrible like that.
Yep. Fuck the 1940s.
Yeah, God. It was a different time. It's not an excuse, but we've gotten better since then. Thank God.
Mm-hmm. Number 7, where do Wonder Woman's bullet-deflecting bracelets come from?
Aren't they remnants of Zeus's shield that were reforged by fucking Hephaestus?
That is one iteration of them. In the original comics, Ryan, they're actually shackles Hercules used to chain the Amazons and enslave them. They kept the shackles as part of their wardrobe to remind them of the evils men can do.
Yep, you know what? Back into BDSM, that makes a lot of sense. You know what? Like, so again, if you watch this movie, which you really should because it's really, really, really fucking good. But one of the women that William Marston was essentially in a family with was one of his graduate students, and she wore these silver bracelets all the time, and that's actually where he got the inspiration for it.
Ah.
Yeah, like her silver bracelets and his wife's dark brunette hair. Yeah, he took what he loved about both of the women in his life and made what he saw to be the perfect woman in Wonder Woman.
Interesting. It's been on my watch list. I'll have to definitely give it a look.
It's super interesting. Like, you should really check it out.
Question number 8, Ryan. Here we go. And speaking of inspiration, an early villain in the Wonder Woman comics, Dr. Psycho, is inspired by what real-world figure from Marston's life? I'll be surprised if you get it, but the fact behind it's actually very fascinating.
Dr. Psycho. Dr. Psycho. I have no fucking idea. I have no idea.
Noted college professor and psychologist Hugo Munsterberg, professor at Marston's, who believed women shouldn't be allowed to vote or be allowed in juries.
Ugh. Yeah, that's pretty fucking psycho.
Number 9, in the cult classic Amalgam comics, Wonder Woman was combined with what Marvel heroine and what new hero did they form?
What?
Do you know what Amalgam comics are, Ryan?
No, I do not.
So there was a crossover comic back in the day when Marvel with Justice League versus Avengers or something along those lines, and they kind of broke the universe in a way where they formed this side venture called Amalgam Comics, which were characters combined with one DC and one Marvel character to create a whole new character, and they would tell their stories one issue at a time. It was like a short run thing, and you had stuff like Dark Claw, which was like a combination of Batman and Wolverine. There are some really creative ones in there.
Help.
There are some creative ones in there. So Wonder Woman did combine with someone else. I won't tell you who. You have to guess. And what hero do you think they made?
Fucking. Shit. Okay. Marvel heroine. Fuck. What could it be? I'm trying to think of women that might fit the bill.
It's going to surprise you, I guarantee it. You give?
Fuck. Fucking Rogue, because she can fly and is super strong and can kill men with a touch, maybe? I don't
You are so damn close.
No, who?
She was combined with Storm.
What?
And they formed the meta-mutant Amazon.
Oh my god, because Storm is from the... I'm dead. I am dead. End the podcast because I am a dead
Final question. What is the intended meaning behind the invisible jet?
Oh, is there a meaning behind it? I thought it was just a relic when comics were pretty dumbly written.
There's an intended meaning that does not come through very well.
What?
You want me to just tell you?
Yes, please. Fucking invisible jet.
It was meant to represent the quote-unquote invisible feminine compliance of the time that women felt they had to rely on to get by in a male-dominated workplaces. The plane was invisible so it wouldn't be shot down by the guns of man's world. A rather silly allegory, really. I get what they're trying to do, but it didn't really play off well. You had some good answers there, Ryan, but I threw some fucking curveballs in there for you.
Like I said, I don't know enough about Wonder Woman's stuff. I think it's really, really interesting. There was a bunch of stuff I just had no fucking idea. Zero.
Well, yeah, I threw Amalgam Comics there because I thought that was just a funny reference.
It was hilarious, no lie.
All right, with that, we come to our final segment. Sorry for making you guys wait, but now we're going to talk about who wore it better, live action or animated. I think I know where we're both kind of sitting at for this one.
Me
so it won't take too long.
And it's very interesting. I think this might is this the first one?
Chronologically speaking, yes, it is the first one.
Oh my god. Yeah, I think... Yeah, chronologically speaking, you're correct. You are indeed correct. Cogliostro. Anyway, yeah.
Spoilers.
Spoilers. I think... I think it's pretty obvious. While the animated film did some really good stuff, and it's still up there in terms of like what the animated series and movies produce, I think the live action had a much subtler form of storytelling. I think it told a more powerful, more impactful story while setting up a really, really awesome origin for a character that hopefully we're going to see a lot of in the years to come. So I think that the live action did it better. No, hands down.
To make my answer very simple, if I were asked which one do I want to rewatch again right now, I would say the 2017 live action movie, because it has some great killer action moments, it has some good beats, got some good storytelling, music is fucking great. That theme song, man, is so great.
Every time I hear that guitar riff, I'm like ready to fight.
Well, I even mentioned it to Amanda when we were watching it the other day, that that is the first song for a superhero film in a long time that I can actually recall and be like, when I hear it, I know whose song that is. Batman had one back in the day, Superman has one from back in the day, Spider-Man kind of has one even. None of the other superheroes really have, like, their own theme song that, like, is emblematic of them. This is the first one in at least a good decade or two we've had that is like, this is Wonder Woman's song, and I know whose it is right from hearing it.
Yeah, we can have a whole podcast on like current musical score choices in comic book films. We can have a long discussion on that. But yes, long story short, this is a very specific, very noticeable and unique theme for that character. It's a great kind of leitmotif where as soon as you hear it, you instantly know who the fuck we're about to see and whom we're going to be focusing on. So yes, yeah, I totally agree with you.
Yep. So without a doubt, it's live action. If you haven't seen it, where have you been? What are you doing? Get the fuck off your chair and go get it. Just fucking watch it.
It's real good, guys. For real. We wouldn't lie to you. It's real good. It's real good.
And I know we're gonna have. I know there's haters out there who will be like, "Hey, you didn't like Batman vs Superman, but you like this? What the hell?" It's like, well, yeah, Batman vs Superman is pretty bad.
And if you listen to the Batman vs Superman podcast, you'll see that she's like pretty much the only really good part about it.
Yep, she's the part we all recommended wholeheartedly is like the part to watch for.
Like, go see this movie for Wonder Woman.
Yep. And like I told you before the podcast, I'll mention here, I know that Justice League is not going to live up to the standard of this movie, but this movie did get me hyped to see more Wonder Woman in anything, even that. So I am looking forward to next week, Ryan, when we cover Justice League. That'll be a fun time.
Yes.
So again, patreon.com/evacstation. You can support us if you want to comment on why we're wrong about Wonder Woman or why you love us about Wonder Woman. There's Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook, evacstation@gmail.com. All the stuff's in the links down below. Please reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you.
Also, if you want to bitch with us about the Invisible Jet, we're always down. So please.
Yep. Tell us why we're wrong about the Invisible Jet or write about it. We'd love to hear that thought too. So yeah, next week is The League. We finally made it, guys, to the big team up. And then we'll do Aquaman right after that. And then Shazam, and then we're in fucking April already, Ryan. We're almost in April.
Man, that means
we're here for the end game.
We're approaching the end game now. Oh shit!
I'm excited. It's gonna be great.
I'm gonna lose my goddamn mind.
So if you want to hear us get hype about all that stuff and more, please continue listening, and we'll see you after the credits.
Bye.